the podcast. We're talking about AI and we're talking about customer service, customer experience, serving your parents, your families, your community with the information they need. And I'm so excited to have Teddy Daiber join me. He is the founder and CEO at AlwaysOn. He's based out of California, and he's built a really cool product that totally focuses on school experience and improving the customer service through an AI chatbot. So he's going to talk really about how his product works, what some of the biggest struggles that schools are facing, and what data can come out of these types of tools, whether it be always on or whether it be another type of AI tool. There's some really cool things that you can do, that you can learn, and you can grow with. He'll also talk about some of his favorite AI tools. This is going to be a really interesting conversation. I learned a ton, but before we get started, I've got a really super special announcement. We have a brand new free Facebook group community that is available for all of my listeners and all school folks across the country, whether you work in public schools or private schools or charter schools or independent schools, or you serve schools. It's called the K-12 School PR and Communications Community. Okay. I'm going to put a link to it in my show notes today, and you can join. Just have to answer a couple questions. It's really a place where, are you struggling? Is there an idea that you want to share? Is there something you want to ask? This is a community to help connect people from across the country that are doing what you do in K-12 school communications, okay? School PR. So that is out there. There are a lot of groups out there, okay, that are available for you. This is just a new community that you might find value in. And if you can, awesome. I am running that along with some other folks. I still offer my paid program, which provides a lot of customer or a lot of training and support weekly. So it's much more advanced and much more in tune, but this one is a free one, and we're all better together. So I wanted to invite you. Check it out in the show notes. Now let's get on to this week's K-12 PR tip. All right, today's K-12 PR tip is all about the Meta performance bonus. So I recently got an email from Maria. She said, "Hi, Andrea. I'm a follower of your podcast, and I thought you may be able to help me out with something. I'm the social media manager for our page and other school pages we manage, and we have become eligible for Facebook performance bonuses. Do you know anyone with a school district account who has become eligible and signed up? If so, what are some steps they took to get the finance department on board? Thank you for all your help." I don't know. Uh, I know you don't have to answer, but if you do, it's greatly appreciated. Maria actually messaged me on my Social School for EDU Facebook page, and of course I messaged her back. So I've been getting quite a few of these lately. They've been rolling out over the past year. But I really have honestly, Maria, only known a few that have this set up. Now, in order to get payments from Facebook, you have to have a personal account tied to it to receive payments. So it's going to be one of the people set up through your account. So one person that I know that set this up in Texas set it up with their personal account. They have the money going into their personal account, and they use that money towards awards and gift cards for staff contributing content or students that are helping out. And I don't know all of the specific steps, especially because Meta and Facebook, they're always updating things, but follow the prompts. Because I know some finance departments are very leery about school accounts getting connected with Meta and, getting hacked or whatever. So once I replied back to Maria, she said, "This is actually really helpful because I hadn't thought of using a personal account and giving it back to our contributors. That's a great idea to propose to my director and finance team." And she promised me she'd keep me updated. So have you done the Facebook or the Meta performance bonus for your school district page? You are getting a lot of traction. You probably have qualified. The gal that has set this up, I think the biggest payment she got back in a month was $140. $140 can buy a lot of $5 coffee gift cards or gas gift cards or, a little bit of swag to give away, right? So this could be an option. If you do take action and you want to talk about it, let me know at Andrea Gribble or email me, Andrea at socialschoolforedu.com. That's our tip for today. Now let's jump into all things AI with Mr. Teddy Daiber. Let's go. I am so excited to welcome my friend Teddy Daiber to the podcast. Welcome, Teddy.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, I get to meet like a lot of really smart people in this business, traveling all around. And Teddy is the founder of a really cool company doing big things to help schools. And then when we were hanging out in California, out in the hallway, not doing much while the people were in their sessions, I'm like, Teddy, you want to be on my podcast? And you said yes.
Easy decision.
So thanks for hanging out with me. So why don't you introduce yourself, kind of share your background and then your role as founder and CEO of AlwaysOn.
Absolutely. Yeah. So my name is Teddy Daiber, and I am the founder and CEO of AlwaysOn. Just for some context, if you haven't heard of the company, we are an education-focused AI chatbot company, and we're specifically dedicated to improving school communication, customer service, and the website experience. So that's our primary focus. We really launched in 2022, so we are a newer company. I think my relevant work experience starts around 2016. So prior to founding AlwaysOn, I worked at another ed tech company. When I joined, they were definitely in the early startup phase, and I primarily, worked on customer service and implementation there. And just for some context about what they do and how it's relevant, so they were a workflow automation tool for school districts. So if you think about paper processes that every school district has, whether it might be onboarding paperwork or a mileage reimbursement, anything that helps the district operationalize, that those paper processes, we digitize those. And, essentially what my work was going from department to department and understanding their workflow. So what happens when someone submits this form and really understanding the approval steps involved. And so through that experience, you really just learn a lot about the operational side of schools and really every department and what their role is within a school district. So through that experience, you really see a lot of the challenges and a lot of the internal processes and things that could possibly, help improve districts from an operational perspective. So that's really where the inspiration came from, is seeing, capacity challenges or maximizing efficiency, using technology and software, and thought, well, there's a lot of opportunity here, particularly on the customer service side, to really help schools and use technology to help schools improve their customer service. So that's really the background and how we got started. And ultimately, what I'm spending most of my time on today with AlwaysOn is the customer service side. So that's my favorite part, working with districts, understanding how they can get the most value out of our product and then using their feedback to further develop our product and develop new features, that can really help them out.
So I didn't know that tie back to your work starting in 2016. Teddy, there's a lot of people on listening right now that says, can you go back to that job and help us out with all those forms? Because there's still a struggle like getting a lot of that stuff digitized. So is that company still in service and are they still working with schools?
They're doing great. The
Okay.
founders are amazing, and the company is an amazing company. They're called Informed K-12.
Okay.
They were formerly Chalk Schools back in the day. I think they changed their name around 2018, but they are doing great. They're cross country. Definitely a lot of districts, I would imagine in almost every state at this point. So,
Okay.
definitely if you're looking for a form solution, workflow automation solution, they're a great company to work with.
Yeah, and I can understand why they renamed themselves from chalk school since like you can't even find chalk anymore in a school. But that's really interesting. And so you branched out on your own in 2022 to start this company. So just tell me a little bit more, you're saying you focus on the customer service side. So just tell me a little bit more about how your product helps schools.
Definitely, yes. And again, really everything we do and our main focus is helping schools provide better customer service. So to be more specific around that, I think that there's a couple ways, and we like to think of it from the perspective of those using our product. So using the AI chatbot itself, if you're on the website and you're a family member, community member, staff member who's looking for information, a lot of times that website experience can be challenging and navigating to the right information in place on the website can be challenging. And it's really not necessarily a website design problem. It's just that districts offer a lot of information. And so, really looking for tools that can bridge that gap and meet people where they are. I think that's really our goal in terms of helping families in the community. So, it's a self-service option. If you're a younger family, maybe you don't want to pick up the phone and call, you have questions at night or after hours, it's 24/7, and it really gives you the ability to get those instant answers and instant information anytime you need it. So from the community's perspective, that's how we're helping schools. And then something that's really been discovered as we go along is the value of the analytics and the data and being able to see from the district perspective exactly what your community is looking for and how they're looking for it. So the data and the analytics that you get from a chatbot are very specific. You see the question level data and you see a lot of interesting information that you can't get from website analytics. So we're seeing districts use this data to make sure that they always have the best information available for their families and for their community. So that's really, I think, from the district side where they're seeing the most value and the most help.
Okay. And you work with them to customize their system then to be able to answer those questions that somebody might have. Is that right?
That's right. So the nice thing about the tool and how we help most is we don't put any work on your plate. So the tool is completely turnkey. So we use your website as the knowledge base and source of truth when answering questions. And our AI is pre-trained to be a school district expert. So you could have a chatbot on your website same day if you wanted it. And then really the goal of the district or how they're using the product in the long term is using those analytics and seeing how they can better help their community get the right information, get the best information. And then as you get and collect more information about what, families are looking for, being able to anticipate future questions and anticipate areas where you might want to add information. So that's really the main focus.
Yeah, in a day and age where like some people don't even want to search for things. And probably all of my listeners are thinking, gosh, we put so much work into that website, making sure that the menu was easy to find and the calendar was easy to find and the contact information was maybe easy to find. But then, when families struggle to find it, they get frustrated and then they have a negative experience about the school. And right now, I think in the day and age of there's so much choice, um schools need to pay attention to that customer service, that customer experience now more than ever. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. I think that is the number one thing we're seeing from when we first started the company to now is that focus on customer service. And going back to your point of school choice, there is a lot more competition for students, and marketing yourselves, well and having great customer service can be a competitive advantage and really give your families that great experience, that keeps them there or wants them to come to the district. And so I think ultimately that ties into some of the biggest challenges we're seeing is how can you offer the best customer service in an environment where staff capacity is limited? There's a lot of different things, even for just school communicators, their set of responsibilities is vast. So how can they use technology and use tools to leverage their existing capacity and create more capacity using technology and tools like AI chatbots? So I think more than ever, customer service is a term we're hearing more in districts. I don't expect that to change. I expect that to grow as districts think about different ways to market themselves, and really set themselves apart.
Yeah. So how many schools or school districts does Always On work with right now?
It's about 50 across the country. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Um, and I think what's, going back to, your point of customer service and the focus on customer service, something that we see it's pretty interesting, just as it relates to the use of AI to solve that problem. Um, people, I think still, especially in schools, there's a lot of questions about AI. A lot of schools don't necessarily have policies developed around AI yet, especially in the classroom. So there's a lot of question marks about the role that AI is going to play in schools. And I think we're seeing more and more schools, adopt AI or figure out different ways to use AI. But we offer these educational sessions to help schools learn a little bit more about how AI works and what tools districts are using today. But one thing we always try to do is create an analogy of what AI really is, in essentially the context of technology and technology evolution. And so there's a clip I really like of Steve Jobs back in the PC days. So when PCs were first being introduced to the mass market, Steve Jobs, who's a great storyteller, he was trying to bring PCs, to households, to businesses, and any organization, and explain, well, what are PCs going to do? Are they going to replace our work? Are they going to help us do this or that? And so he draws this very interesting analogy of basically people riding a bicycle and their efficiency related to other animals, traveling a certain distance. And his whole point of the analogy is that, with technology, people powered can be massively, improved in terms of efficiencies and quality of work. And so his whole point of the PC is, you know, it is a tool to help people do higher quality, efficient work. It's essentially a supplement. And I think that's what AI really is the new PC. I think the best versions of AI, especially in schools, is to help staff do more efficient, higher quality work, and get a head start on certain things using the tools that are available.
Yeah. So I saw that video because I saw you present when you were in California. I'll get that link from you just so people can watch it because I think it is a helpful, maybe if you're talking about it still at your school where you're still kind of at the beginning stages to just put it into perspective, or even if you're talking with your school board who may be a little bit a little bit older and less connected with what they're doing actually in the classroom, you could really explain it well with that video. So I'll
Oh yeah.
make sure to link that. So you mentioned that you're getting a lot of value in the analytics
Mhm.
from what people are typing in. So you work with a lot of schools already. Can you share, two or three things that you see that schools are really seeing, this is a big opportunity for us when it comes to customer service? I know that wasn't on our list, Teddy, so I'm
Yeah,
totally
absolutely.
complimenting you. But
Well, I think stories can be the easiest way to convey that. So I'll give a few examples of different things that we've seen or how districts have used the data. Again, I think it goes back to having the best information available for your community at all times. And I think being able to, proactively provide information and make sure that those answers and that information is always available when people need it is the best form of customer service. So we've had a couple occasions where, districts will look at the data or we'll look at the data with districts. We do offer professional services, where we will help you analyze the data and make updates and manage your website content. So a couple of things come to mind. We were working with a district in the middle of the country who, as you know, there's always weather in the wintertime. It's a big topic, happens every single year. It's seasonal, where there's delays or closures due to weather. So one thing we've seen with a lot of districts that live in areas where weather can impact school, they always have a really nice dedicated page to procedures around, weather events. So what happens if we have a 2-hour delay? How do we decide if there's a delay or cancellation? What are the process and procedures around that? This district entering the winter time, we noticed through some of the data a few of those questions coming up, and they didn't yet have a page dedicated to that. So we looked at that data and said, well, hey, this is going to be a page that you'll use forever. It's going to happen every single year where your families are going to be asking about, what happens if we have that delay or cancellation? So we work with them and saw through the data that they were getting those types of questions, and we're able to provide some examples of other districts who are using pages like that to help their families and their community, know about that process. Very funny and interesting, something that happens regardless of the district and the region. The biggest spike days in terms of volume that we see in the product are on days where there's weather events. And I always found that interesting, because there's a lot of forms for communicating, especially real-time information. So it just didn't occur to us at the beginning that people would be going to the website and asking the chatbot, hey, is there a delay today? But we saw time and time again that that was happening. And so a page like that becomes even more critical, in making sure that you can answer that question in real time when people have it. Um, Along
So
those
what
same lines,
just
oh
quick
yeah, absolutely,
question, just a quick question.
of
So
course.
like if they were asking, is there a delay today? The AI tool may take them to the page that says, if we have a delay, this is how we're going to share the information. This is where you should check. And then it may not say on the website whether it's closed or not, but it would at least tell them where to go to look. Is that right?
Yeah, and that's exactly right. And I think where the chatbot can really help with district efforts in the long run is using the data to improve the website and the content on the website. And so maybe before having a chatbot, you just have more of a static page on procedures. After having a chatbot and realizing the traffic and the volume that you get, having a status bar on that page or using that page to actually say, hey, there is a delay or cancellation on this day, and the chatbot can pick that up and provide that information back. So thinking about using the chatbot and the data to maybe also adjust website content and how you're actually building information on the website.
Okay. That makes sense. I was thinking of another example. Do you have one more example of
We
using
do.
data?
Yeah, we do. And this is something that we're doing a lot more in terms of proactively helping districts get in front of trends and seasonal information. What we've noticed this year is families are asking for things sooner and sooner. So, seems like February hits and people are already asking about summer school and graduation, what's the last day? And realistically, a lot of districts haven't gotten around to having some of those, senior events or end of year events, being put on the website yet. So everything from prom to cap and gown to the actual day of graduation, making sure that information is there sooner and sooner is something that we really started highlighting this year. And so I think ultimately what it comes down to is having the ability to get those answers to people when they need them. So sometimes the fastest approach isn't actually updating the website in real time because, graduation dates and certain dates that are maybe school site specific may take a little bit longer to actually get up on the website. So we have other tools and ways of surfacing that information and allowing you to create answers in the chatbot that don't necessarily have to come directly from the website. So in the case of graduation dates and end of year events, we created more of a canned response for those, until the sites had caught up and gotten that information on their pages. So we were able to notify those sites, hey, families are asking about this. And then in the interim, have a canned response that actually provided that information to those families.
Okay. And the example I was thinking about was hiring. Like, I think all schools are struggling with hiring, certified staff and non-certified staff. And I've been involved in some trainings where people have really dug in and talked about like reliving the experience of trying to be a substitute teacher. And it was so impossible, all of the forms and things that they had to fill out. But I could imagine, essentially maybe the chatbot could help with some of the questions being asked about how to apply and some of those things, and then you can work to improve the process altogether, kind of relating back to probably a little bit of your informed K-12 days, but just better processes, right?
Absolutely, yes. And I think something that you're mentioning about, a specific path or a specific use case around, let's say, recruiting and hiring. So one of the great things about the tool is we actually have districts who can build chatbots for specific use cases. So we actually have districts that'll have a careers chatbot. and the information that chatbot is looking at is all careers driven. It actually might be PDF documents, it might be a careers website, and then they're able to, answer questions specific to careers or getting hired as a sub, anything from what's the pay rate to what's the process, how long until I find out if my application was accepted, all sorts of different things that you can, basically build in and, support people around that process. And then because it's an individual chatbot, they can then look at that data and see if they don't have coverage on certain things that people are really curious about. And one thing that came to mind, we had one come up recently around visas and, hiring, from out of the country for, certain programs, and they just didn't have a bunch of information about that yet. So then adding that information to support questions around that was another example.
Okay. Now, do you work with a variety of different websites? So your tool is regardless of what platform you're on?
That is true. So we work with any web provider. It doesn't matter who your provider is. I'd say ultimately we found a way to work with all of them. Really, what it comes down to is just the website itself and the content and managing that well. Providers have different features and functionality, but our tool just is a layer on top of the websites.
And do you see most web providers, just open honest, like are they developing this inherently in theirs, or is their focus more on, other aspects and not necessarily this customer service side?
That's a really good question. I've thought about that a lot, and obviously would be interested in if anything comes up or what I'm hearing. So from what I'm hearing, I don't really know that anyone is developing this specifically. I think when it comes to web providers and CMS providers, I've seen interesting use cases where it will help you write a blog post or an article for the website. So more of that internal use case.
Yeah.
I think what it comes down to with a chatbot, an AI chatbot that works on your website that's customer service oriented is there's a lot that goes into making that better over time and making sure your chatbot is always providing the best answers and training it correctly, and then using that data accordingly. So we found a well-rounded model that includes professional services and really building out features and functionality for this particular use case. It's a challenging product to build and something that requires, I think, full dedication to really do well.
Yeah. And quick question, because we all talk to Siri or talk to Alexa or whatever. Can you talk to your tool, or does it have to be typed in right now?
It has to be typed in right now, but we are working on that.
Okay.
More broadly, I think accessibility and having different ways that your tool can be accessible. There's a lot of compliance things around web guidelines and different things like that. And then obviously just being the most accessible tool, there's a lot around that. So translation, having all available languages, for different language preferences, or to your point, maybe having something built in where you can actually, use your voice to ask a question. So we're always exploring and building new things around accessibility, and that's something on our list that we've started talking more about.
Okay. So you gave us a couple really good examples with the weather delay and calendar type things and asking for things sooner. Is there any other like a great success story with schools who use AI to help with communications and customer service?
Absolutely, yes. I can definitely give you a couple examples. So I think what we've seen is that districts measure success in a number of different ways. So I think, the starting point a lot of the time is, hey, if we put this on our website, are people going to use it? And so I think time and time again, what people are really surprised about is the engagement that they see from the tool. We have districts that see thousands of questions a month through the chatbot. That's probably a lot of those questions weren't being asked before, but there's definitely an element of this where it's offloading, a lot of those repetitive questions or common things from staff. And one of the things that we always try to measure as a success story is our staff finding more time for the more personalized interactions. Do they feel like there's less repetitive common questions coming in? Is that a noticeable difference? So I think from a usage perspective, that's definitely something that we look at. We've had districts who have specific goals that they're trying to solve for and find success in other ways. So maybe they're going out for a bond and they really want to make sure that the critical information is being conveyed correctly and, in the right way, and, that they have a source of truth or a tool that can help make sure that people are getting the right information about the bond. So I think that's a really common example, is something that's more specific, or a new website, for example. Um, and I'd say more of an internal success that we found is around the product and seeing the different ways that people are using the product. And so going back to that use case of careers, just to expand upon that, we see districts that have 10 plus chatbots that they have deployed across various areas. So, for example, having a chatbot on your major school sites, because you have a large population there. You want a dedicated chatbot that's like a customer service rep for that school site. And then because it has its own data, whoever's responsible for keeping those school site pages up to date have a very easy way of seeing what their families are asking about and making sure their specific site pages are up to date. And then more broadly, I'd say on the product development side, it's been really great to see how our districts are using the tool and the things that they'd like to see us do in the future. So we find it a big success that we've started developing a lot of other features and functionality that we did not anticipate building, but that have been asked about from our districts. For example, a survey product that we're building out.
Mhm.
So I think success has been measured in a lot of ways, and a lot of it has been driven by how the districts like to and want to measure success. So we've learned a lot from that perspective.
Yeah. So, Teddy, if they want to learn more, where should they go? How can they contact you?
Absolutely. Yeah. So you can always reach out to me over email. It's teddy@alwayson.ai. And you can always visit our website at alwayson.ai. And whether you have questions about our product or other products, we do offer educational sessions if your district is interested in learning about AI. I can even tell you about a couple other tools today if you're interested in hearing about some.
Yeah,
Um,
sure.
we think a role that we want to play in schools, and just more broadly in the community, is to help people understand how AI works and how to best approach it within schools. And so part of that presentation we provide is really around highlighting ways that we see school communicators and schools using AI in their everyday work. And so I think there's a couple that we can go through, and thought I could highlight some fun names, if
Yeah,
that was helpful for
yeah,
you.
that's awesome.
Awesome. Well, I think everyone got started with ChatGPT.
Mhm.
I'm curious, have you used it at all?
Used
ChatGPT
it today.
used it today. Okay.
I like using it for my some of my social media posts when I get some jumbled stuff, need to add in some emojis. Obviously I always do some editing. And then if I have some blog topic ideas or something, or need to develop some outlines, I mean it's a really helpful tool.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think the examples you described, we see a lot of planning and brainstorming around using ChatGPT, or something that's really come up more recently with ChatGPT is school communicators using it to analyze information.
Mhm.
So if you have a spreadsheet of data, or results, it can be really helpful in summarizing it or highlighting insights in data. You can actually upload a document now and ask questions about it. So that's something we're hearing more and more people use it for, which I find very interesting, and can imagine there will be more use cases around that in the future. So that's more written outputs. I would say one that's more school specific that I'm hearing more and more about is Magic School, which basically, from I haven't used it a ton, but I have tried it out a bit. Has a lot of built-in different pre-prompts that you can use. So, for example, if you need to create an IEP or a lesson plan or a quiz, basically you can enter a few inputs like the grade level and what the quiz should be about, and it will actually produce an output for you that you can use. And it has a lot of great exemplars that are school specific on how people are using the individual options that they provide. So it's really, really great. Probably more classroom centric, but I do think they have a lot of different interesting tools in there for anyone in a district setting.
Okay.
Um, Absolutely. And then a couple others that I think are interesting on the visual side, if you're trying to create images, Canva actually has built-in presentation creators or stock image creators. Things like Adobe Firefly allow you to enter prompts and create images on the fly. Um, and then just a couple other really interesting ones, fun just to try out on your own, but not necessarily in a district setting yet. So there's Sora, which allows you to create whole videos on the fly now. So if you go check it out, full feature length films using prompts, which is pretty amazing. It's
And
by the
what
same
and how do you spell that?
Sora.
Okay, I guessed right.
Yep, got it. And then Udio, which allows you to create full length songs from a prompt. So it's pretty funny, just something to try out. But you can create a whole song from a prompt, which is pretty amazing.
Awesome. Just don't let my husband know that my song for him was written by Udio.
Exactly.
Is that Udio?
That's UDIO. That's right.
Okay. Okay. Those are great. So as we wrap up, Teddy, what would you say is your best social media tip when it comes for schools?
That's a great question. So I will tell you now, we are very limited on social media at the moment. So I would
Your
not call
company.
expert our company.
Yeah, okay.
Um, we are just creating our first, Twitter and different accounts, or I guess X now. And we plan to get more active. So I would not call myself a social media expert. But what I would say, just from learnings, even specifically related to our product. So when making announcements about new initiatives or new products, what we found really valuable is if you're using social media to make those announcements, is having different ways that those who then maybe go try a tool or learn more about what you're offering or what your announcement is, a really good forum for them to leave feedback or provide feedback on that initiative that you're announcing. I think that having a good forum where that feedback can be collected, and then you can have ways of saying, hey, thanks for the feedback. This is what we've done based on your feedback. I think that's a really valuable guideline for any initiative, something we've seen through, announcing our product.
Yeah, that just it reminds me, obviously social media is meant to be two-way, and sometimes what they say is great and sometimes it's maybe challenging, but we can use it. But when you talk about that, just AI being used for data analysis, I mean, I had over 500 responses to my most recent school communicator survey. And, what's your biggest struggle? What are you focusing on for next year? And ChatGPT helped prioritize and summarize all of those things. And everybody kind of wrote about it in a different way. Of course, you have to check all of that.
Of course.
But knowing that, social media is a listening platform, but AI can play a tool in helping you interpret some of that. I think that's really great advice. So, I appreciate that tip. Teddy, I learned so much more today. I really appreciate it. And listeners, I just want to urge Teddy's a great guy. He's got a great company there and he's helping schools. And the best thing is you're focused on schools. So like what you're doing. So as you think about customer service and your experiences, and many of my listeners are APR, really like RPI focused, research planning, implementation, evaluation. So they love the data. So I just think that aspect alone is really neat. And so what are the steps? I mean, they can email you, they can go to your website, but if they're interested in taking a look at what Always On could do and getting the costs and all of that, do you just set up like an online meeting kind of with them and you can go over it?
Absolutely, yes. If you email me, or we have a contact us form on our website, where you can actually schedule something. So either one works, but very active on my email, so it won't take long to hear back from me if you choose to send an email across. Would love to hear from you if y'all have any feedback or any new ideas on customer service. As you mentioned, we are an education-focused product and really try to build as much as we can to help schools. So always open to new ideas, if you have any. So thank you.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Well, Teddy, I think we'll be seeing each other soon in Arizona.
Absolutely.
Really proud of the company you have built and the way that you are striving to really make a difference in schools. So thanks so much for hanging out with us, and hopefully you'll be hearing from some of our listeners.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. This was great.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
all right, everybody, keep telling those stories. It's May. I know it's crazy. You can do this. Let's celebrate all the things. And until next week, just keep telling those stories. Bye bye.